At 10:10 p.m. on July 12th, Archangel Michael reveals the truth about last night. Three angels are in shock because they still don't know what happened. He's waited for this moment to confess everything that was hidden from you. You'll never be the same after seeing this. Watch now. At exactly 10:10 p.m. on July 12th, the heavens shifted. The realm of angels grew silent, as if something too sacred, too disruptive, had pierced the veil between the divine and the deceived. At night, three angels stood in stunned stillness, their wings trembling, not because of fear, but because they had just witnessed the unexplainable. They were there when it happened, yet they still don't know what truly unfolded. This isn't myth or metaphor. This is a divine moment concealed in mystery. Until now. Archangel Michael, the mightiest of warriors and protector of souls, has carried the weight of silence since last night. But now, the weight is too heavy. The truth he's been guarding is ready to be released, not in symbols, not in signs, but in direct, clear revelation. And once you hear it, you will never unsee what's been hidden in plain sight. Your name is entangled in this moment, and heaven itself has circled this time, 10:10 p.m., because this is when the truth would find you. He's not just revealing what happened, he's revealing why it matters to you. The truth is spiritual. The truth is personal. The truth has your name written in its echoes. If you felt strange energy since last night, unease without explanation, or even a wave of overwhelming clarity, it wasn't random. It was the residue of a spiritual collision meant to wake you before it was too late. Michael's voice is coming through now because the time of spiritual delay is over. This message is not for the curious. It is for the chosen. You didn't stumble upon this message. Your spirit was guided here. Because something was happening behind your back last night, and the three angels were assigned to guard you. But even they were left speechless. They've been waiting to understand what Michael already knew. And now you're going to hear it, too. Don't look away. Don't let logic interfere. The moment has arrived, and you are inside it now. The night of July 12th was marked not by thunder or fire, but by a quiet shift in the spiritual order. You wouldn't have seen it in the sky or felt it in your skin, but your soul registered it the moment it happened. Somewhere between the ticking of 10:09 and 10:10 p.m., a door opened in the realm of divine awareness, and what poured through wasn't just light or clarity. It was the truth. A truth that had been concealed for years. Not just any truth, but your truth. One that involves betrayal, protection, timing, and a secret Michael has long carried to shield you from destruction. You were being watched last night, not by people, but by spiritual forces, some with wings of protection, and others with intentions darker than shadow. Michael had warned them not to cross the line, but the enemy is cunning. They whispered lies in the spirit, visited the dreams of someone close to you, and attempted to disrupt your destiny by planting confusion in your atmosphere. The three angels who witnessed it froze, not because they didn't know what to do, but because they weren't permitted to act until Michael gave the order. And Michael didn't speak until now. Type I am rising to get the blessing 4896. You've been feeling it, haven't you? That strange unease in your gut. The sudden heaviness when you were alone. The sense that something just wasn't right, even though nothing looked different. That's not paranoia. It's discernment. Because what happened last night was a spiritual attempt to blind you right before breakthrough. Someone connected to your past was used as a spiritual backdoor to send chaos into your emotional field. It looked like anxiety. It felt like disconnection. But it was sabotage disguised as a mood. And Michael watched it all unfold. The reason The three angels are in shock is because even they didn't expect the one responsible to be that close to you. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't an obvious enemy. It was someone whose presence you once celebrated, someone you let in when your heart was still healing. They spoke your name aloud in a room where jealousy, not love, was the atmosphere. And those words summoned a ripple effect that led straight to 1010. But the attack failed, because what they didn't know was that Michael was already stationed by your side. Type I am anointed to get blessing 5263. You see, Michael didn't move right away, not because he was slow, but because heaven needed to record the entire sequence. This wasn't just an attack. It was a test, a recording, a proof that they crossed a line so deep that divine justice could now be activated without delay. What was done in silence has now become a case in the courts of the Spirit. And Michael, as a warrior of divine justice, has been authorized to speak publicly, spiritually, prophetically. This moment right now is his declaration. And you, child of light, are the one it's for. Let this truth settle in you. You're not imagining the shift. The tension with someone you thought was loyal, it's real. The delay in your progress wasn't just life happening, it was interference. But interference always signals importance. And what's coming next in your life is such magnitude that heaven had to allow this confrontation. The enemy wanted to distract you, but instead, they've exposed themselves. Michael says this was the final failed attempt. From here forward, your path must be guarded and sacred. You were meant to hear this not just for comfort, but for clarity. You are being called to shift how you protect your peace, to cleanse your space, to silence the voices that carry disguised judgment. Because now that Michael has revealed the truth, you have the power to reclaim the timeline that was being tampered with. The angels that were once in shock have been reassigned to assist you with fresh orders, and the one who spoke your name in darkness, their influence is being stripped as you read this. The confession has begun. Type I am chosen to get the blessing 6842. Last night was not just a moment. It was a divine timestamp, marking the exact second a shift occurred in your spiritual timeline. Heaven doesn't move by human clocks, but when something is this precise, 10:10 p.m., it's a sign that what happened was planned, recorded, and spiritually significant. Archangel Michael waited years to speak this truth, but the events of July 12th activated the moment. The darkness you've been wrestling with wasn't just an emotion. It was a spirit that was allowed temporary access, just long enough to reveal who had been hiding behind a friendly face. The angels weren't only in shock because of what was done, they were stunned by who did it. In their eyes, this person should have been removed from your path long ago. But you kept showing them mercy. You kept believing their excuses. You kept spiritual doors open because your heart was loyal. Michael says now, your loyalty hath been used against you. That is why last night happened. That is why you are reading this now. Because heaven allowed one last incident to show you what your discernment has been whispering all along. Type I am protected to get the blessing 7421. Michael didn't speak before now because you weren't ready. You needed to see it for yourself. You needed to feel the sting of energy that didn't align. And now that you've seen it, now that you've felt the tremor, Michael can tell you this. The person who spiritually tried to interfere is no longer cloaked. Their spirit has been revealed to the light, and the contract they tried to activate over your peace has been burned in the fire of divine judgment. What they sent out last night was meant to disable your clarity, but instead, it revealed their identity. You may be asking, why did the angels not intervene before it happened? Michael answers clearly, because divine justice must allow choice. The one who betrayed you wasn't possessed. They were persuaded. They had a choice to protect you or speak against you. And they chose wrong. That is why what happened last night is so powerful. It proved that even after all the blessings they received from being near you, they still chose envy over loyalty. They still tried to tamper with your journey. They still use your name in a room of spiritual distortion. Type I am rising to get the blessing 6124. And yet you are still standing. You are still receiving this message. That means heaven overruled what was designed to harm you. It means the delay they hoped for will now become acceleration. What they tried to ruin will now become your testimony. Michael has watched over your spirit with silence, but now he is vocal, because this is your unsealing. This is the moment the mystery surrounding your recent suffering is lifted. The confusion, the fatigue, the misalignment. It was all spiritual backlash from being too close to destiny. 3 angels remain present around you today, and their orders have changed. No longer silent witnesses, they are now active protectors. They are authorized to speak to you through signs, to guard your decisions, and to intercept messages that carry harmful intent. You'll notice sudden insights, dreams that expose names, or gut instincts that you can't ignore. That's not paranoia. That's the realm of divine clarity being restored. Michael says, what once was hidden in fog will now be shown in fire, and you will never be the same again. Remember this. The truth isn't always gentle, but it's always sacred. Last night was your awakening. Heaven let it play out because you were ready. The delay is over. The mask has fallen. The veil has been lifted. And now, as Michael continues to speak, understand that each part of this message is spiritually timed, just like the moment at 10:10. You've entered a divine unveiling. The confession isn't over yet. There's more you need to hear, because the battle wasn't just over your present. It's been about your future all along. If this message resonates with you and you feel moved to support, consider giving a super thanks with contributions of up to $20. Your kindness helps us bring more powerful content your way. Also, if you'd like to support what we do, you can make a difference by donating via PayPal using the support here link in the description of this video. Every contribution helps us keep creating and sharing more with you. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel for regular prophetic guidance, deep spiritual insight, and powerful words that keep you aligned with heaven's rhythm. Type I am divine to get blessing 7353. Archangel Michael has waited for the perfect moment, not an hour too early or a minute too late, to finally speak on what was hidden beneath the surface of your recent pain. The night of July 12th was more than a supernatural shift. It was the spiritual culmination of several unanswered prayers, delayed blessings, and divine warnings you tried to dismiss. What took place at 10:10 p.m. wasn't just about revealing others. It was also about preparing you for your rise. Because what was exposed in the heavens must now be reckoned with on earth. Some of the people you've been connected to were never meant to stay past the season they entered. You knew this, but you were generous with your time, your forgiveness, your energy. Michael watched you try to carry the weight of people who were never willing to carry yours. He saw your silent cries when loyalty turned to silence and support turned to envy. And now, everything that was left unspoken has become heavenly evidence. The spiritual courtroom was opened last night, and your case, yes, your case, was finally ruled upon. Type I am shielded to get the blessing 8020. The 3 angels who were present during the breach had one command: observe. They watched closely as a certain person allowed themselves to become a vessel for spiritual interference. And though their smile remained the same, their intent shifted. This wasn't the first time they opened the door to envy, but this was the time heaven decided to record it. Michael knew that only when the betrayal crossed a spiritual boundary would divine justice be unleashed. And last night a threshold was crossed. Let this settle deep within you. Last night was not your breaking point. It was your breakthrough. There was a conversation, one you didn't hear, where your name was spoken not in love, but with spiritual venom. And instead of harming you, it activated protection. The angels moved swiftly. Energy around you shifted. And your soul, whether awake or asleep, was marked safe by the Most High. Michael stood over you like a fortress made of fire, declaring, "This one is not to be touched." Type I am called to get the blessing 6947. That's why things have been feeling strange. People you once felt close to suddenly feel distant. Conversations seem off. Energies are misaligned. You're not imagining it. The confession from Michael isn't only about last night. It's about the seasons leading up to it. The signs have been in front of you for months. But July 12th was when heaven could wait no more. What once hid in the spirit has now been dragged into the light. There is no going back. You stepped into the unveiling. The divine realm is now actively working on your behalf. Blockages that once stalled you are being lifted. Prayers that felt ignored are now moving into manifestation. This is why the enemy grew bold. They saw what was coming for you. They sensed your proximity to breakthrough. And so they sent in confusion, sabotage, and emotional fatigue, hoping to weaken your discernment. But instead of destroying you, it helped awaken you. Michael says your spiritual eyes are now open permanently. Let the rest of this message anchor in your soul. The angels are no longer shocked. You're mobilized. They've been dispatched to new positions in your life. You are entering a stretch of time where divine exposure and protection will move hand in hand. Every lie, every hidden motive, every covert plan, they are all being brought to the surface. And as you continue reading, understand this: Michael is not finished. The truth about last night is just the beginning of what you're about to learn next. Type I'm chosen to get blessing 8844. What happened at 10:10 p.m. on July 12th did more than expose betrayal. It shifted your spiritual jurisdiction. You are no longer operating in the atmosphere you were in just days before. The confession released by Archangel Michael didn't just reveal a person. It revealed a cycle. A spiritual loop you've been unknowingly caught in, repeating patterns of trust, hurt, forgiveness, and delay. But now that heaven has intervened, the loop is breaking, and what once seemed like endless emotional warfare is being cut at the root. The reason you've been experiencing emotional turbulence lately isn't random, it's residue. When a spirit of sabotage is evicted, it leaves behind an echo. You've been hearing that echo in your memories, in your dreams, even in your relationships. But Michael says those echoes are fading now. The silence you've been sitting in wasn't abandonment. It was preparation. Because your spirit needed to be still long enough to recognize truth when it was spoken. And now truth is no longer hiding. Type I am delivered to get the blessing 6382. The person who played both sides, smiling in your face while speaking against you in the spirit, has been divinely identified. And here's the revelation Michael gives. This individual never wanted your destruction, they just couldn't handle your elevation. Your growth, your favor, your light. It agitated something in them they never healed from. Instead of confronting their own wounds, they projected envy through passive words and hidden thoughts. What they didn't realize is that even thoughts are recorded in the spirit. Heaven doesn't need volume to hear intention. This is why your blessings were delayed. Not denied, delayed. Michael says every spiritual promise tied to your name was temporarily paused, not to punish you, but to protect you. Because had the blessing arrived while that person still had access to your energy, they would have attached themselves to your favor and corrupted it from the inside. Heaven waited. Angels stood still. And when 10:10 p.m. came, the pause was lifted. The confession began. And now your release is being activated. Type I am rising to get the blessing 5195. You've likely felt it already. That slight but unshakable sense that something's shifting in the unseen. Conversations feel different. Your intuition is sharper. The air around you feels charged, sacred. That's not your imagination. It's spiritual movement. What was once restricted is now flowing. And while you might not yet see the full picture, Archangel Michael assures you, the veil is thinning. You are being drawn closer to the voice of God, to the wisdom of your calling, and to the protection of righteous alignment. Don't doubt your sensitivity right now. If someone's presence feels off, trust that. If someone's silence speaks louder than their words, believe it. You've graduated from needing proof. You now move by discernment. Michael isn't just giving you answers. He's training your spirit to recognize deception before it enters. Because what you're stepping into next requires heightened awareness. Your next level won't come with applause. It will come with revelation. And your discernment will be your greatest shield. Let these words wrap around your soul like armor. This season is sacred. The attack failed. The assignment has shifted. And the one who tried to delay you has now become the confirmation that you were always on the right path. Keep walking. Keep listening. Michael has more to reveal. And as you absorb the next part of this message, understand this. Last night's confession is only the first chapter of your divine release. Type I am aligned to get blessing 7013. Archangel Michael now speaks with a clarity that burns through illusion. The truth revealed at 10:10 p.m. on July 12th has cracked open the spiritual ceiling that once hovered above you. You are no longer in the realm of guessing who's for you and who's not. Last night was the divine separation between those who carry light and those who only mimic it. You've been praying for clarity, and heaven delivered it through exposure. Exposure that didn't just show you who they are, but reminded you of who you are. You are a spiritual vessel, chosen and covered. And when your name is spoken in deceit, the heavens react. That's what happened last night. Your name was used, twisted, and projected into an atmosphere meant to cloud your path. But instead of confusion, it summoned confirmation. Michael allowed the attempt so the source could be identified. And now that the source is known, heaven has declared this season a sacred reset. You are no longer available to be used by people who confuse proximity with entitlement. Type I am awakened to get the blessing 6888. The 3 angels stationed around you last night did not retreat. They recorded. Because in the spirit, records matter. Words spoken in secret become evidence in heaven's courtroom. Intentions wrapped in flattery become transcripts in angelic files. That's why Michael didn't stop the betrayal before it happened, because the exposure required documentation. You needed to be vindicated with proof. The betrayal was painful, yes, but the spiritual record it created now authorizes your elevation without interference. Let this sink deep. They didn't just betray you. They activated the wrath of divine protection. What was once subtle envy has now transformed into a full spiritual obstruction, and heaven responded. Michael is not just your guardian in this moment. He is your witness. He stood beside you when your soul felt what your mind couldn't comprehend. He's the reason you didn't break down completely. He's the reason you're still standing. And now that the confession has begun, so has your deliverance. Type I am lifted to get the blessing 5777. Do not ignore the changes happening around you. There's a reason why old connections are falling silent, why invitations no longer come, why people you thought were foundational suddenly feel foreign. That's not loss, it's liberation. Michael says you are being untethered from spiritual parasites, those who fed on your light without ever nurturing your growth. And the moment that confession began, the divine sisters were released. Heaven is cutting cords you were too kind to sever. Some may try to return, cloaked in remorse or vague reconnection. But don't be deceived by timing. Not everyone who reappears is a sign from God. Some returns are temptations in disguise. And now that you've crossed into sacred territory, you must guard it with fierce discernment. You can love them, but you cannot give them access. You can forgive them, but you cannot re-invite confusion. Michael says your future demands spiritual discipline, because your calling is far too rare to risk again. This is your preparation moment. Every message in this divine sequence is meant to rebuild you from the inside out. What was hidden is no longer a threat. What was delayed is no longer stuck. And what's ahead of you is nothing short of divine realignment. You are stepping into purpose, clarity, and divine timing. And no enemy in your circle, no whisper in the shadows, no betrayal behind your back can touch the next thing God is releasing to you. Michael is still speaking. Stay open. Type I am rising higher to get blessing 7331. There is a reason Archangel Michael didn't reveal this truth earlier. You were still healing, still growing, still learning how to trust your own spiritual instincts. Had the confession come too soon, you might have doubted it, or worse, ignored it. But now, after all the patterns you've witnessed, after all the weight you've carried, your spirit is finally aligned enough to recognize what your soul has always known. Not everyone who walks with you was sent to stay with you. Last night wasn't just exposure, it was permission. Heaven gave you permission to release what's been quietly draining you. You felt it. The invisible tug on your joy. The sudden emotional fatigue around certain names. The dreams that left you unsettled. These weren't coincidences. They were warnings, gentle at first, then louder as you resisted. Michael didn't want you walking into destiny with blind spots. So instead of letting the enemy continue hiding in plain sight, he triggered a moment so undeniable that even your generous heart couldn't unsee it. What happened at 10:10 p.m. wasn't betrayal, it was revelation. Type I am empowered to get the blessing 6622. There are people who benefit from your silence. They thrive when you suppress your knowing. They feel safe when you second-guess your instincts. But Michael says, no more. The angels are realigning your confidence. They are restoring the part of you that was taught to shrink when your discernment got too loud. This is a season where your voice must match your vision. You cannot carry light and pretend not to shine. The one who turned against you didn't want your destruction. They wanted your dimming. Because your shine reminded them of what they refused to grow into. But now that the spiritual veil has been pulled back, you can never walk blind again. You've seen too much, felt too deeply, survived too many near spiritual collisions. You're not crazy. You're not sensitive. You're spiritually awake. And now that you're awake, your alignment will naturally offend those who still choose to live asleep. Don't shrink back for comfort. Don't apologize for clarity. You're not being dramatic. You're being delivered. Type I am awakened to get the blessing 8509. What they tried to plant in the dark will now be uprooted in the light. Michael has instructed heaven's scribes to rewrite the spiritual narrative around your name. Every lie is being corrected. Every distorted perception is being dismantled. And those who tried to make you look unstable, emotional, or ungrateful, their projections are being returned, not as punishment, but as proof. Proof that light always wins, that God's chosen always rise, that even when you don't fight back, heaven fights for you. You've likely noticed it already. Strange shifts in communication, people retreating from your energy, moments of random emotional clarity. That's spiritual confirmation. When Michael confesses, the atmosphere listens, and your entire environment is adjusting to the truth now revealed. Don't chase understanding from people who chose to misunderstand you. Don't seek closure from those who benefited from your confusion. Your clarity is your closure. Your peace is your power. Your elevation is your evidence. Michael isn't just cleansing your environment. He's upgrading your inner circle. The angels are sending new connections. Those who don't just admire your light but protect it. People who see your purpose and don't try to compete with it. These connections won't drain you. They'll mirror the strength you forgot you had. And as they arrive, you'll know them by how quiet your spirit feels in their presence. Not anxious, not guarded, just safe. If this message is piercing your spirit and helping you step into divine truth, consider giving a super chat or super thanks today. Your support of $20 helps us continue creating powerful, prophetic messages like this one. We are grateful for every seed you sow. Also, if you'd like to support what we do, you can make a difference by donating via PayPal using the support here link in the description of this video. Every contribution helps us keep creating and sharing more with you. And be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. You'll receive regular prophetic guidance, exclusive content, and spiritual tools to keep you aligned with your divine path. Type I am chosen by heaven to get the blessing 9211. There's a reason the revelation came at night. The dark often holds what the daylight cannot disguise. At 10:10 p.m. on July 12th, Archangel Michael didn't just whisper a warning, he shattered the silence that had protected dissection for far too long. The three angels who stood watch didn't need to intervene because the divine judgment had already been sealed. The person who spoke against you thought it would go unnoticed. But heaven does not miss whispers spoken in spiritual rebellion. Michael waited for the precise second to expose what pride tried to conceal. You may wonder why it had to unfold this way, why the truth couldn't come gently, through conversation or reason. But the heart that intended to hurt you wasn't open to truth. They weren't confused. They were strategic. Michael says what happened was deliberate spiritual sabotage, masked as care, coated in charm, wrapped in false alignment. But your spirit began to twitch. And the more you ignored the nudge, the louder heaven prepared the crash. That crash came at 10:10. And now the silence has broken. Type I'm rising with clarity to get the blessing 7666. Every time you forgave without accountability, heaven made note. Every time you overlooked their energy shift, their subtle jabs, their backhanded comments, the angels took record. Mercy has always been your strength, but now, Michael is shifting you into discernment. Because what they did last night wasn't new. It was just the first time it echoed loud enough in the heavens to demand a response. Your peace was targeted. Your clarity was interrupted. But your protection, it never wavered. The angels stood in full armor, watching, waiting, documenting. And now, the judgment has begun. Not as punishment, but as release. The cords that connected you to spiritual leeches are being severed. What once strained you will now be denied access. They may reach out. They may try to reconnect. What Michael warns, do not go back. What was revealed was real. This is not a test of your kindness. It's a test of your alignment. You don't need to explain your absence. You don't need to defend your decision. You are being elevated, and with elevation comes separation. Type I am aligned with truth to get the blessing 8125. This moment is sacred. The unraveling of lies has created space for divine clarity to flood in. You may feel a strange quietness in your life right now, like a storm just passed, and the air hasn't settled. That's because the spiritual realm is still sweeping the debris. Your angels are clearing what no longer belongs. People, habits, thought patterns, anything connected to confusion is being divinely dismantled. And you are being rebuilt from the root. Not as a reaction, but as a response to the calling on your life. Michael says this: your spirit was too expansive for the space you were trying to fit in. That's why it became uncomfortable. That's why you began questioning your worth, your voice, your discernment. Not because you were wrong, but because the environment was no longer your assignment. Heaven had to disrupt your comfort to activate your calling. And now, the shaking is over. The new beginning has begun. What you feel stirring is not fear, it's freedom. The three angels who stood beside you are now walking ahead of you. They've been reassigned to prepare divine connections, new territory, and unshakable peace. And no more tolerating what confuses your spirit. No more shrinking for the comfort of those unwilling to grow. And no more second-guessing what God already confirmed. You are stepping into alignment so sharp, so pure, that the very air around you will change. This is not a metaphor. It's a spiritual reality unfolding in real time. Type I'm stepping forward to get blessing 9090. There's a sound in the spirit that only the awakened can hear. A shift, a rupture, a ringing that begins the moment you stop ignoring your inner knowing. That's what 10:10 p.m. on July 12th activated. When Archangel Michael stepped forward, he didn't just bring a message, he carried a sword. Not to harm, but to divide truth from illusion, loyalty from attachment, and purpose from distraction. And now that the sword has been drawn, nothing hidden can remain. You've entered a realm where masks melt in the presence of divine heat. For too long, your heart overrode your discernment. You saw red flags and painted them white. You caught glimpses of shadow but covered them in excuses. Michael didn't blame you. He understood you. Your spirit longed for peace, and you thought compassion would keep the chaos quiet. But compassion without boundaries invites betrayal. That's what the angels witnessed last night, your soul begging for clarity while your environment whispered confusion. That's why the silence shattered. That's why this message is meeting you now. Type I am breaking cycles to get the blessing 8344. The person who triggered the spiritual breach did so while appearing composed. That's what makes it so dangerous. They didn't yell. They didn't rage. They maneuvered in stillness, passing off judgment as concern, envy as advice, and sabotage as subtle distance. But heaven saw it all. Michael's confession isn't based on your memory. It's based on divine record. They didn't just think against you. They projected. They aligned with spiritual frequencies that had one purpose: to delay your rise by dulling your sense of direction. And now, that contract has been canceled. Heaven tore the page. The angels who stood and witnessed now stand in war. They've gone from watching to guarding, from documenting to disrupting. If you feel a sudden lightness, a pressure lifted, a space within you beginning to clear, it's because the spiritual parasite has been evicted. You're not just walking away emotionally. You're being disconnected energetically. What once lingered is now forbidden. This is your release. You didn't lose anything. You were liberated. Type I am spiritually free to get the blessing 7757. You may feel tempted to reach out, to explain, to reopen dialogue, to smooth what heaven has shattered. Don't. Michael's voice is firm. What was revealed cannot be repaired. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a pattern. And patterns don't change without surrender. The person who caused the breach is not ready to surrender their ego. And you are no longer in the business of negotiating with spiritual sabotage. If you reconnect what God cut, you delay what God designed. Don't go backward. You've come too far. The realm of divine clarity is not crowded. Not everyone will join you here. And that's okay. What you're building needs silence, focus, and people who speak your name in rooms of faith, not fear. People who honor your evolution instead of mourning the version of you they could manipulate. Michael says the new is already forming, but it needs space. Let go of the old energy. Burn the bridges of confusion. Let the ashes testify to your awakening. This is not grief. This is graduation. You are now living in the aftershock of revelation. The tremor you feel is not fear, it's alignment. Your soul is adjusting to the absence of spiritual interference. Give it time. Give it grace. Heaven is rebuilding what hell tried to confuse. And while the confession from last night may still echo in your mind, know this, Michael is not done speaking. The greatest part of the revelation is still ahead, and your heart will be ready when it comes. Type I am unshakable to get blessing 6902. At 10:10 p.m. on July 12th, a spiritual alarm was sounded, louder than thunder, clearer than words, deeper than human understanding. It echoed across realms, signaling that a shift was no longer optional but divinely mandated. That was the moment Archangel Michael stepped into full authority and pulled back the curtain you didn't know existed. Behind it, secrets sat quietly, some spoken in whispers, some locked in thoughts, some disguised as kindness. But when heaven is ready to elevate you, truth becomes non-negotiable. And nothing false can remain near what God is preparing to release. Michael saw the sacrifice you made to hold on. The moments you convinced yourself it was love, loyalty, or duty. The times you silenced your instincts to preserve the illusion of peace. But peace that costs your spirit is not peace, it's bondage. That's what last night's revelation came to shatter. Michael didn't just expose a person. He exposed a pattern. A spiritual cycle designed to trap you in emotional confusion, so that you would never grow bold enough to step into your divine authority. Type I am stepping into truth to get the blessing 7144. This is why your emotions have been so unpredictable lately. Joy followed by sudden dread. Calm followed by spiritual nausea. It wasn't random. It was the unraveling. The vibration of truth moving through your energetic field, pulling up every lie that took root in your heart. The angels began their cleansing work the moment the confession was released. That's why old wounds resurfaced, not to break you, but to be finally healed, without apology, without denial, without filters. Michael says this phase is necessary, because what's next requires you to walk in undiluted alignment. The voices around you must echo clarity, not chaos. The hands near you must uplift, not drain. The hearts tied to you must celebrate, not compete. Last night didn't just show you who they are. It reminded you who you've become. You are no longer someone who explains away misalignment. You are someone who protects your peace with holy confidence. Type I am fully aligned to get the blessing 6262. The betrayal you experienced wasn't personal. It was prophetic. It wasn't designed to destroy your confidence. It was designed to awaken your conviction. You are no longer in spiritual survival. You're being shifted into spiritual strategy. Heaven is orchestrating a reintroduction of your identity, not to others, but to yourself. The version of you that's rising now is the one they tried to bury under guilt, shame, and false obligation. But he is still here, still called, still chosen. Some people will act confused by your clarity. Don't waste energy explaining. Let them sit with the version of you they constructed. Let them watch the glow of your freedom as evidence of your elevation. Michael says your glow is no longer up for negotiation. Your power is not up for compromise. And your future is not up for sabotage. The door they tried to keep shut has now been blasted open by the force of divine exposure. And what's flowing through it cannot be stopped. So rest in this knowing. Last night was your permission slip. The angels are shifting guard posts. Michael has reassigned watchers to oversee your next steps. You're no longer walking into battle unarmed. You're walking with divine fire at your back and justice at your side. You don't owe them your silence anymore. You don't owe them another delay. What you owe now is obedience to the calling God has placed inside you. And that calling, it just got louder. If this word has confirmed your spirit and awakened your boldness, consider supporting with a super thanks of $20. Your support allows us to keep releasing prophetic guidance, clarity, and strength for others walking through betrayal into blessing. Also, if you'd like to support what we do, you can make a difference by donating via PayPal using the support here link in the description of this video. Every contribution helps us keep creating and sharing more with you. And make sure to subscribe to this channel so you never miss a moment of divine instruction, heavenly insight, and spirit-led guidance tailor-made for your breakthrough. Type I am moving forward to get blessing 8517. Archangel Michael is not speaking to the version of you that tolerates dishonor. He's addressing the version of you that has risen from countless spiritual attacks, the version that stood firm when confusion tried to consume your mind. The events of 10:10 p.m. on July 12th weren't just about you. They were about the legacy you're carrying. Heaven saw the ripple effect of that betrayal, not just in your heart but in your timeline. That act, though cloaked in smiles, attempted to fracture your spiritual trajectory. But it failed. Not because it wasn't strong, but because you are stronger. You survived betrayals that never made it into words. You've cried from wounds no one apologized for. You've questioned your worth in rooms where your name was mishandled. And still, here you are, chosen, covered, and now awakened. The angels witnessed your quiet endurance. And last night, at the hour divinely appointed, the silence broke. Michael says enough. Enough carrying people who keep trying to climb over your boundaries. Enough second-guessing your discernment. Enough apologizing for your light. Type I am spiritually awake to get the blessing 6882. The one who tried to distort your peace didn't come with weapons. They came with familiar energy. They knew how to speak your language, how to mimic support, how to disguise judgment as concern. And for a while, they succeeded. But last night, heaven rewound the reel and played it back before the angels. What was hidden in testers was revealed in intention. And when intention becomes undeniable, spiritual contracts begin to collapse. That's what's been happening. You've been breaking invisible agreements simply by standing in truth. This is why the old emotional cycles no longer have the same hold. Why the same conversations feel heavier. Why your tolerance for spiritual ambiguity has completely eroded. You're not becoming cold. You're becoming clear. Michael says clarity is a gift disguised as discomfort. And when truth is fully seen, pretending becomes impossible. That's what July 12th sealed for you. The end of pretending. You're no longer spiritually available to hold space for people who resent your progress. Type I am not returning to get the blessing 7429. The angels guarding you now are operating on strict orders. No more unauthorized access. No more back doors into your atmosphere. Anyone who wants access must go through divine clearance. And many won't pass the test, not because you're bitter, but because you're better. You are better aligned, better protected, better equipped. This isn't arrogance, it's spiritual maturity. You now understand that forgiveness doesn't require reconnection. And love doesn't mean forgetting how it felt to be spiritually manipulated. Michael wants you to notice the subtle shifts, the ease returning to your spirit, the lightness in your body, the creativity flowing again. These aren't coincidences. They are signs that the spiritual smog is clearing. The cloud that hovered over your decisions, your emotions, your confidence, it's lifting. Because when deception leaves, vision returns. And now that vision has returned, so has your authority. You are no longer a silent participant in your own delay. You are the gatekeeper of your own peace. Let the truth echo through your bones. What you felt was real. What you saw was divine. What you lost was never yours. And what's coming cannot be stopped. Michael says you're entering a stretch of supernatural accuracy. Your words will carry weight. Your steps will command protection. Your presence will unsettle what's false and activate what's holy. This is not the end of the revelation. The truth still has layers. But for now, let your spirit rest in what's already been unveiled. You were right to trust your knowing. Type I am walking in truth to get blessing 9188. There's a sacred hush in the heavens when truth finally meets readiness. That's what unfolded at 10:10 p.m. on July 12th. Archangel Michael waited, the angels stood still, and your spirit finally became strong enough to receive what your soul had sensed for so long. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was prophetic. And now that it has been fully revealed, the spiritual realm has begun rearranging everything connected to your next season. The delay is lifting. The fog is clearing. What you once doubted, you now see with unshakable clarity. You're not just healing from broken trust, you're recovering your divine memory. You are remembering who you are. Before the manipulation, before the guilt, before you gave your power away in the name of peace. Michael says, what you're feeling right now is the realignment of your identity. You're coming back into spiritual formation. The version of you that knew how to discern before they made you doubt yourself, that version is rising again. And this time he is not shrinking. Type I am returning to myself to get the blessing 8481. The person who tried to interfere with your destiny was never random. They were strategically placed, sent to mirror your unhealed places, not to help you heal, but to exploit what hadn't yet been sealed. And now, the seal is complete. Heaven has shut the opening they once accessed. The thoughts they spoke, the energy they projected, the confusion they carried, it has been sent back to its origin. You are no longer absorbing the weight of someone else's spiritual assignment. You've been reassigned to clarity, to truth, to purpose. Let that settle in your heart. You have been reassigned. Your prayers have matured. Your discernment has sharpened. Your vision is no longer clouded by emotional obligations to people who were never meant to carry your future. Michael says it's time to build without looking over your shoulder. You're no longer under surveillance by the spirit of sabotage. The angels have repositioned themselves, 2 before you, 1 behind. That formation means this: you are moving forward with heaven's full endorsement. Type I am divinely positioned to get the blessing 6933. This is why you've been feeling strange waves of calm, moments where fear should exist, but doesn't. Those moments are evidence that peace is now your default frequency. When false connections are removed, real presence enters. God is sending people who carry answers, not confusion. Those who pray with you, not prey on you. Those who speak your name in reverence, not resentment. And as they enter, you'll notice something powerful. You won't have to prove your worth. Your presence will be enough. But with every divine gift comes a divine responsibility. Protect your energy. Don't fall back into comfort disguised as loyalty. What you tolerated before the revelation is no longer allowed in this new chapter. Heaven has upgraded your atmosphere. Don't downgrade your standards. You've paid the price in silence, tears, and unseen endurance. Now walk in what's been purchased. Your calling is sacred. Your light is rare. Your boundaries are holy. And anyone who refuses to honor that does not belong. So hear Michael clearly now. This was never about vengeance. It was about vindication. Not the loud kind, but the divine kind. The kind that restores your clarity without you lifting a single finger. The kind that rearranges everything around you to reflect your true spiritual rank. You are no longer hidden. You are no longer silenced. And you are no longer tolerating what dims your glow. The final layer of this confession is coming. But before it arrives, stand firm in this knowing. You are exactly where heaven wants you. Type I am fully restored to get blessing 7790. This is the part of your journey where divine silence turns into divine sound. The echoes of 10:10 p.m. on July 12th still ring through the spirit realm, not as noise, but as a vibration of truth that can no longer be reversed. Archangel Michael isn't just watching anymore. He's walking with you, step for step, guarding your next moves as you transition from spiritual survival into spiritual rulership. What began as a moment of betrayal has become your moment of authority. This was never about loss. It was always about leadership. Michael reveals this now. The person who attempted to block your destiny wasn't just dealing with you. They were warring with your assignment. What they didn't understand was that when they touched your peace, they triggered a kingdom response. 3 angels were dispatched, not just to protect, but to record and release. They stood in the realm between exposure and elevation and waited for the divine order to move. That order was given at 10:10 p.m., and now, what was hidden has become undeniable. Type I am called to lead to get the blessing 7077. The truth of your calling is not small. That's why the battle was so loud. That's why their energy turned sour the moment your light became consistent. The enemy doesn't waste energy on the ordinary. You were targeted because you carry territory. What you're birthing is bigger than visibility. It's about vibration. You change atmospheres just by showing up. And that presence, that divine frequency, is what darkness always tries to mimic, never match. You are not being attacked because you're weak. You were attacked because your power was waking up. But now, your power is no longer sleeping. Your voice no longer shakes. Your inner world is no longer available for manipulation. Michael says the chains of emotional confusion have finally snapped. The guilt is gone. The hesitation is gone. The illusion that you needed their validation. Oh, this is your clearance notice. Heaven has cleared your energy field. And now, your instructions will become clearer, faster, stronger. Don't ignore them this time. Don't doubt the next steps. You've been trained by trial, and I'll lead with truth. Type I am a breaker of chains to get the blessing 8632. The days ahead will bring confirmation in waves. People will come forward to speak things they once hid. Messages will resurface. Dreams will become vivid. Not to scare you, but to finalize the severing. The truth doesn't just arrive once. It repeats itself until you're immune to deception. And this is what's happening now. Heaven is building your resistance to illusion. The next time manipulation tries to wrap itself in familiarity, your spirit will recognize it instantly and reject it without apology. You're not just being healed, you're being commissioned. Commissioned to speak, to create, to move forward boldly. The gifts you once hid to stay accepted will now be the very tools that build your future. The room you were once too afraid to enter. Heaven is opening it. The opportunity you talked yourself out of because of past trauma. Heaven is resurrecting it. This is your permission slip to believe again. Without fear, without people-pleasing, without performance. You're not who they left. You're who God preserved. Understand this. Everything that happened on July 12th was divinely documented for your release. You don't need revenge. You don't need closure. You don't need recognition. You need to obey. Because the window that opened that night wasn't just to reveal others. It was to reveal you to yourself. To help you finally see the authority in your reflection. To trust the sound of your own anointing. You recognize the sacredness of your space. Michael says you are no longer becoming. You already are. Type I am already enough to get blessing 9904. And now, we've come to the final moment. The confession that began at 10:10 p.m. on July 12th wasn't just a divine disclosure. It was a declaration over your life. A spiritual seal was broken. The veil was lifted, and what had once been tolerated in silence was finally addressed in heaven's court. Archangel Michael has spoken, not with whispers, but with a sword, and what he declared has now changed the entire trajectory of your future. You are no longer living beneath your rank. You are no longer subject to the sabotage that once went undetected. The angels that surrounded you in that moment did more than witness betrayal. They executed justice. Not the kind that punishes, but the kind that restores, that repositions, that releases. Every hidden projection, every masked intention, every quiet scheme, it was all recorded. And because of that, you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. Your elevation doesn't require approval. Your clarity doesn't need consensus. You were chosen long before they rejected you. You were marked long before they misjudged you. And now, the world will see what heaven always knew. This closing isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your reign. Your discernment has graduated. Your identity has been reclaimed. Your boundaries have been sanctified. And Michael leaves you with this. The truth will continue to echo until you walk fully into the light of your authority. You have permission to be bold now, to take up space, to speak without trembling, to rise without apology, because the one who tried to confuse your path has now become the evidence of how protected you truly are. Don't look back. Don't revisit old narratives out of guilt or nostalgia. Why heaven cut was necessary. What was revealed wasn't meant to hurt, it was meant to heal through revelation. Let the tears you shed become the water that nourishes the ground beneath your next steps. You are no longer on the defensive. You are on divine assignment. Protected, equipped, empowered, and seen. Heaven is watching still. The angels remain with you. And Michael's sword still hovers above your path, clearing every obstacle that once delayed you. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are chosen. You are rising. You are free. If this word has stirred your spirit and ignited boldness within you, consider showing your support with a super thanks of $20. Your generosity empowers us to continue releasing prophetic guidance, clarity, and strength to those journeying from betrayal to blessing. You can also support our mission through PayPal donation by clicking the Support Here link in the video description. Every contribution makes a meaningful impact and helps us keep creating and sharing with you. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you never miss a moment of divine instruction, heavenly insight, and spirit-led guidance designed for your breakthrough. Tap I am sealed in truth to get blessing 9,999.